Greetings and salutations and welcome back to Colin's Last Stand right here on YouTube. My name is Colin Moriarty and I appreciate your time today. Now, just last episode, I did a sort of social commentary, and I don't typically like to do two of those in a row, or at least I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to mix things up a little bit more each week or every other episode here on Colin's Last Stand. The episode I'm talking about, of course, has to do with Wonder Woman and Alamo Drafthouse. You probably saw it, or you might have seen it. If not, you can go check it out. But I know that we want to get back to history, we want to get back to real politics, but I want to save that for the next episode. I want to get into something that's happened with two comedians here in the United States and therefore in our globalized society all around the world, with some bad jokes or something bad that they've done, bad in quotes or bad really, we'll talk about that. And then the way everyone's reacted to it and how this kind of occurrence, these kinds of occurrences, how they have a really negative impact on the way we talk to each other, the way we react to things, our overreaction to things, the sort of theater of reaction, because you know everyone's watching you react, of course, as well, and how that kind of injures us and negatively impacts us, and how we can be better, I think, as a people, me included. And that's relevant to what we do here on Colin's Last Stand, you and I, as I talk to you guys and you let me know what you think in the comments and we have interactions all over the internet. Because in reality, what's going on with these two comedians, Kathy Griffin and Bill Maher, it's all political. And while what they did was tasteless, what they did was wrong, and while I wouldn't condone what they've done, I would certainly say that the way everyone's reacted to what they've done has been way overboard and way dramatic and completely ridiculous and completely injurious. And I want to talk about why that is, but I also want to talk about what the whole point of this is as well. Why are we like this? Why do we do this to each other? Why do we want to see other people fall? So let's start with Kathy Griffin, because what she did during the week was far more, I think, played up in the media. I think it probably will be far more played up in the media at large. And there just hasn't been enough time to burn between when this episode's airing and what the second occurrence is, which we'll get into in a minute. Kathy Griffin is an American comedian, American female comedian that has been on the scene for a few decades, really. And you might know her from her appearances in Seinfeld, but really she kind of gained prominence with her stand-up in the mid-90s, into the late 90s, into the 2000s, into the aughts and whatnot. And I have to be honest, I like Kathy Griffin. I know that the people are surprised by that, but I actually enjoy her. My sister Dana and I used to really bond over watching her stand-up and her old show and whatnot, and I think she's just silly. I think she's wacky. I like her humor, and I haven't really paid much attention to her probably in the last decade or so, and I also understand why people don't like her, but that's who she is, and that's kind of where I stand on Kathy Griffin. But what she did was she took a picture and some videos of her holding a bloodied, decapitated head, which I'm sure you've seen, of Donald Trump, and she was making a political statement, and I think it was a vile and tasteless political statement. It was apparently in reference to the entire Donald Trump talk with Megyn Kelly, who used to be at Fox. I think she's at NBC News now, about she's bleeding from her eye, she's bleeding from wherever, I likely a reference to, bleeding from your vagina. And so she was apparently holding that head, the decapitated head of Donald Trump, and kind of owed to that, as it were. But obviously this was a tasteless thing to do. This was a stupid thing to do. Not only is the man the president of the United States, but this is an overtly violent sort of thing. Holding the head of someone that's decapitated is something that literally ISIS does. It's weird imagery to see in the West in a modern world in the 21st century, but Kathy Griffin fucked up, and I think it was a stupid thing to do. I think it was a wrong thing to do, and she was contrite about it. She apologized immediately for it, pretty much, and after doubling down in some promotional videos about it that I think were concurrently filmed in relation to the photo shoot, she apologized and she asked for forgiveness, and she seemed like she was upset about it, and I don't know that she expected to have as negative a reaction as she got. I'm sure she expected a negative reaction or she's an idiot, but as negative a reaction, I think that kind of pushed her over the edge. Now, Griffin has long pushed the envelope and has gotten in trouble in the past, and you can read about different instances where she's really gotten in trouble, gotten things canceled, her ordeal at the Emmys, and there's a lot of things with her that are worth noting. Kathy Griffin has often, or has at least historically, crossed the line from time to time, and that's a notable thing. An apology or not, Kathy Griffin lost some tangible things and some career prestige, if not a lot of career prestige, through this stupid picture that she took. CNN got rid of her. She usually co-hosts the New Year's Bash thing with Anderson Cooper. She was apparently, I didn't know this, a spokesperson for a Squatty Potty. And she had shows canceled and appearances canceled and whatnot. So Kathy Griffin was paying the price professionally for this as well. And yes, she gave this very stupid press conference and kind of shifted blame to other people and talked about how she was being harassed by the Trumps. All of that's valid input too, that I think she actually apologized. She probably should have left it there, but she made it worse. But that's not really important to this particular story. The other person that I want to talk to that did something stupid was Bill Maher. And Bill Maher, just like Kathy Griffin, is someone I'm a fan of, but I'm actually a pretty big fan of Bill Maher. I actually just saw him live about a month ago in Oakland. We really had a great time, and I didn't agree with 75 or 80% of what comes out of Bill Maher's mouth that night, but I really like him. I think he's an honest man. I think he's a straight shooter. I think he has firm convictions. I think he's entertaining and he's funny, and I really enjoy him. So I'm just putting that on the table as well. But on last night's episode of Bill Maher's HBO show, and I'm saying last night because again I'm recording this on Saturday. This is going to go up on a Monday, so there's a little bit of a time difference there. But he used the N-word and told a terrible joke using that word, and it was a big mistake. And not a good thing to do. And again, tasteless and stupid and tone deaf in a lot of its own different ways. And just this morning, Bill Maher came out and apologized for it. And that actually surprised me. I didn't think Bill Maher was going to apologize, and I thought that if he were to apologize, he would have waited till his next show in 6 days. But he apologized right away. Said he was losing sleep over it and didn't sit right with him, and I respect that he did that. So indeed, the situations between Griffin and Maher are very different. They're very different situations, just from a factual standpoint. But our reaction to what Griffin did and our reaction to what Maher did, and I'm not talking about all of us, but I'm talking about ours, as in society at large's reaction, or social media's reaction, or the mainstream media's reaction, or whoever's reaction. The reaction to it was, in my opinion, completely over the top. And this is especially true in society at large, and it's especially true with social media. When someone makes a mistake, when someone does something stupid or silly or shitty, and it's not necessarily a pattern for that person, or it's not necessarily a criminal act or a criminal offense for that person, but nonetheless something that someone can score points on, or someone can make a point on, or someone can signal their own virtue, and it turns into a witch hunt, and it turns into something that is relentless, and it turns into something that is mean-spirited, and sometimes even more vile, indeed, than what originally caused that reaction to begin with. Destroy, destroy, destroy. That's the intent when something like this happens. Make sure that person never sees the light of day again. Make sure that person never works again. Make sure that person never forgets the mistake they made. Make sure that person never, ever, ever lives it down for as long as they live. They aren't allowed to have mistakes because they are public figures. And I think it is a destructive and shitty and silly way to go through life, to be looking out for all of these different errors that people make and making them all into the greatest possible crime imaginable. It's fucking ridiculous. I am not saying that what Kathy Griffin or Bill Maher did was right or good. What I'm saying is, especially when you're a comedian, and especially when you're a public figure, and especially when your job is somehow in the public eye, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make some bad mistakes. And I think that society might want to be just a little bit more forgiving of those mistakes. Think about it. Just think about it for a second. Kathy Griffin is a controversial comedian, but nonetheless a comedian with an incredible volume of work, whether you think it's quality or not, but let's say an incredible catalog of work that spans many years. Much money has been made. She's a famous person. She's been on some famous TV shows. She's had her own TV shows. She's won awards. She's been an advocate for gay rights and for trans rights. She was a big proponent for gay marriage. Remember that her outspokenness on gay rights, by the way, and specifically, way before it was cool or common to be that way. So just pointing that positive trait of hers out. She's also entertained troops overseas and done a lot of other things like that. But nonetheless, Kathy Griffin has been around for a really long time and has done all these things. Do you think, just logical conclusion, do you think that she thought that her holding that head up was going to ruin her? Do you think that she would have done it if she thought that that was the case? If it's not the case, then shouldn't we just look at it from a different viewpoint, through a different lens, and say, maybe Kathy Griffin, she did something shitty. We're allowed to express that and we're allowed to voice that. We should tell her that we don't like it. We should make sure she knows not to make those kinds of mistakes. And we should tell her why it's that way. And it seems like that worked. That the contrition I saw in her apology was reflective of that. Why is society's reaction to shirk all of that, to say, we saw what you did, nothing else about you matters, nothing else about Kathy Griffin matters. Just this one isolated incident, this is what matters. Your apology doesn't matter. Your apology means nothing. Your previous advocacy for a lot of great causes means nothing. The fact that you've entertained millions means nothing. We're going to murder your career and your ability to make money. We're going to murder your image. We're going to murder everything about you and destroy you. I just do not have that gene in me. And what was really surprising was with Bill Maher, everyone turned on him too. Bill Maher is about as progressive as you can possibly be in the United States. Bill Maher has long been an outspoken advocate for progressive causes and democratic causes, a huge believer in fixing global warming, in immigration reform, in all sorts of things that the progressives champion. He gave $1 million of his own money, $1 million out of his own pocket to re-elect Barack Obama in 2012. And like Griffin, Bill Maher's made mistakes and has been a controversial figure in the past, especially with his stance on Islam. People find that very controversial. But nonetheless, ignore everything about Bill Maher. This is at least the MO, right? Ignore everything about Bill Maher, isolate this one massive mistake that he made, and try your hardest to ruin him. And that's what you were seeing on social media and in media outlets. Fire Bill Maher, fire Bill Maher, fire Bill Maher. HBO, get rid of Bill Maher. No one goes see him live. That's insane. Have you never made a mistake? Have you never said anything that you wish you could take back? That you wish in the moment that you immediately saw or heard and said, fuck? And did you hope that the people around you might forgive you? I don't understand why we treat words and some indecent actions as if it's a fucking murder or a rape. These people, Kathy Griffin and Bill Maher, have no power. None. They have no power. They are entertainers. They are millionaire entertainers. They have the ability to buy. They have the ability to be seen, but they have no power over your individual life. You know who does have power over your individual life? Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, Jeff Sessions, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Theresa May, Emmanuel Macron, Angela Merkel, Kim Jong-un. Kathy Griffin and Bill Maher are comedians that made mistakes. The end goal shouldn't be to destroy them to such an extent that they can only work at McDonald's. I mean, I told a joke on Twitter in March, and people tried to destroy me. It didn't work, obviously. Here I am. But it was really shitty for me, from my perspective, having gone through something like this to a much lesser extent because I am not Kathy Griffin or Bill Maher. But nonetheless, I understand what it's like to have everyone ignore all of the aspects of who you are, of your life, of the things you've done and said and the positivity that you've put out in the world and all that. Isolate this one thing and then try to destroy you over it. It's not right. Bill Maher didn't rape a woman. Kathy Griffin didn't murder someone. None of them robbed anyone. None of them put their hands on anyone. None of them had a fraudulent financial transaction. None of them robbed anyone. None of them did really anything at all that is going to affect anything in your life. They made a mistake. And not only was the mistake made, they apologized. And if the apology isn't good enough, then what is the point of contrition at all? It's like what I always say about like lapsed felons, people that served a few years and then get out. If they can never get a job because they have to tell you that they're a felon, if they always have to be reminded of the mistake they made, even after they served their time, even after they were forced to show some level of personal contrition, then what is the point of making them serve at all? You might as well just throw them in jail. You might as well just fucking kill them if they can never live their life again. To a lesser extent, it goes with mistakes that people make in everyday life. And I think we can learn a lot about this, a lot about forgiveness. Bill Maher didn't don a fucking Ku Klux Klan outfit and hang someone in his front yard. Kathy Griffin didn't literally go to the White House and cut Donald Trump's head off. If those were actually the crimes at hand, then we'd be having a different conversation here. But these are words. These are not actions. These are words, and they are images and pieces of failed art. I said it when it happened to me to a much lesser extent, and I'll say it now, and I'll remind people. This zombie horde can turn on you like that. They don't care. People just want to be better than other people. People just want to put people down. They want to show their virtue better. It's all theater. It's like the TSA in the airport, right? None of this is actually keeping you safe. It just makes you feel like you're safe. Everyone looks and says, well, these guys are keeping us safe. Security theater. Well, this is its own type of theater. Everyone starts tweeting and Facebook posting, making videos, and having commentary. Ruin them, destroy them. Then what? You feel better now? Because that's the ideal, of course, in a lot of these people's minds. Just destroy them, then we'll move on to the next person we can destroy them. There's a term for this. It's called witch hunting. And you know what one of the major drivers of witch hunts in the past were, whether it was in Salem or whether it was back in Europe or whatever the case may be? You want to know what the major driver was? To make sure that everyone knew you weren't a witch. I'm destroying Kathy Griffin. I'm good. I'm a good person, right? I've never made a mistake. I've never said shitty things. Things like this are ultimately politically motivated. The right is going after Kathy Griffin, and the left, ironically, is going after Bill Maher. And It's all about politics. It's all about, people have this scoreboard in their minds. It's like when a terrorist attack happens, right? A terrorist attack happens, it was a Muslim. And there are other people that are like, it wasn't a Muslim, you don't know it was a Muslim yet. And everyone's kind of waiting to see like, who's going to get the tally? Who's going to get the goal? And we can move on to the next period. There are some things that aren't political. Using shitty terminology or making mistakes, this is something that's human. Everyone does it. Everyone deserves a second chance, and everyone deserves to have the entirety of who they are and what they do to be looked at when they make a mistake. And when I look at the entirety of the picture with Kathy Griffin, and I look at the entirety of the picture with Bill Maher, I see good, decent people that occasionally make mistakes. Are they arrogant? Are they brash? Sure. Are they rich? And did they get there by pushing the boundary? Sure. But nonetheless, that's who they are. And we actually need and should desire people like them in our society, in our communities. You need people that remind you this is where the edge is, and you need to be reminded that sometimes the edge exists as they go off of it, as they go over the line. You don't want to erase people like this, and you don't want to erase their ability to tell jokes and make mistakes, because otherwise it becomes a more sanitized society we live in. But the response has to be commensurate to the crime. People often talk about free markets working. Well, there's a difference between markets working, their magic, and people putting their thumb on the scale to be mean and punitive. Each human being is complex, and each human being has nuance to them. Many shades of gray, as it were. Not the sexy book, by the way, but just here, shades of gray, just normal shades of gray. I've often told people online when I had a distaste for something they did or said. There were times when I've even gone over the line, but typically I take pride in the fact that I don't aim at individuals and that I usually let off. I don't call for people's firing. I don't call for people's destruction. I say my piece and I move on. I did that recently with Jeopardy champion Ken Jennings. I did that recently with libertarian Tom Woods. I did that recently with a random Huffington Post writer. But I wouldn't, through my disagreements with them, hope that they are ruined, or hope that they have no ability to fend for themselves, or even make assumptions about their character. These people, like Maher and like Kathy Griffin, have no power over your lives. Aim your ire at the people that do. People go overboard sometimes. It doesn't make them criminal, and it doesn't mean that we should go out and try to destroy them. And it certainly doesn't mean that we should make political ideologies the centerpiece of every attack. We are letting division and mean-spiritedness take over the narrative. We are letting it happen. The center is this new comfortable place for a lot of us to be because both extremes are terrible. But we mustn't let even in the center the extremes dictate the actions of all of us. We have this want over human history, this desire to watch people be destroyed, to watch people hurt and yearn. And it's weird. The Romans in the Colosseum, the witch hunts at Salem, McCarthyism. What's going on with us today? The enemy, bad, get 'em, got 'em, destroy 'em. This isn't supposed to be a blanket statement. There are people, really bad people in the world. I was just watching a Frontline documentary about Timothy McVeigh and the Oklahoma City bombing. A piece of shit. Hurt people, murdered people, killed people, was evil, had evil in his heart, acted in an evil and deplorable way. It is time to calibrate our responses and find that decency again that we have lost. We are all human. We all make mistakes, and we are not perfect. I stumble all the time, even in the ways on which I preach right now to you. But we got to start somewhere. And I think that these two moments in time, happening back to back, are super instructive and can give us a better, positive way to move forward. To, again, recalibrate our responses to those around us, to let normal people seek forgiveness for stupid things, and to make sure that the people in power and the people that do truly bad things that hurt us are held to account. Because when you scream fire at every single thing, people stop listening. And when everything is bad, indeed, nothing is bad. Anyway, I hope that makes sense to you. I enjoyed this episode. I hope you did as well. Thank you for following me here on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook and all those places as well, Instagram. If you want to support me on Patreon, that is much appreciated, but you certainly do not have to. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Keep it respectful to me and to others. Thumb up the video if you liked it. Thumb it down if you didn't. And I will see you next time for Colin's Last Stand. Keep on learning.